So we're going to jump back into Lisa Allen's testimony to the Post Office Horizon IT inquiry and focus on the data that was finally requested. Now, obviously, she's previously told us that 30 days would equal one request. So why did she only request 7 days of data from Fujitsu when their data was requested from following the counsel advice in the case of Suzanne Palmer? Let's find out and jump into the inquiry.
You say, I have now obtained a Fujitsu log for the Grange SPSO from the 15th to the 21st of September 2005 that I produce as item LJA 11. It says this log shows all the transactions entered into the Horizon computer system during these dates. And you produce a further extract from the log. So the log you obtained covers the period of 1 week. Is that right? From the 15th to the 21st of September 2005?
Yes.
It appears from what follows, and please do take the time to we can go through this, but do cast an eye down and going over the page, please.
Interestingly there, we know 1 unit, according to Lisa Allen, was 30 days worth of transaction log. She's requested 7 there. Would that have also, I'm presuming, counted as 1 unit? So was there any need to actually restrict it to 7 days? And if you need those 7 days, actually include the following 23 days or the previous 23 days as well, because it would cost the same in terms of ARQ requests towards Fujitsu. Just something for potential consideration.
It appears from what follows that the purpose of obtaining the log for this week was to show the entry of 6 error notices onto the system. Is that right?
Yes.
From item LJA 12, it can be seen that there are 6 charge error notices entered by user SPA 04 on the 20th of September. These 6 charge error notices amount to 2520 and are the liability of the subpostmistress to pay. And you say, therefore, having described what the log shows, therefore it was the responsibility of Mrs. Palmer to pay this amount to Post Office Limited at the time of entering the error notices on the 20th of September 2005. It would appear that Mrs. Palmer has taken cash out of the Post Office relating to the claim error notice, but has not paid the 2520 that she owed to the Post Office Limited for the charge error notice.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? Because during the interview, I'm sure, if I remember correctly, she said she wasn't taking any money out of the business in respect of these claim error notices, basically where they are owed money, on the basis of she knew it would be claimed back because she knew it wasn't her money. So that's an interesting development, shall we say, between that time and this statement.
Yes.
Is it right that you only ever requested from Fujitsu a log covering the period of the entry of the error notices covered in this statement and not for any wider period?
I don't recall what logs were requested at the time, but that log was obviously only for 1 week, so that was one request, but I don't recall if there was any other request made.
Given the wider issues being raised by Mrs. Palmer about the Horizon system, and being mindful that August 2005, for example, was a month that was raised as a point when she was calling for help, why was ARQ data not requested for a longer period?
Given the time, I don't recall why.
In the final paragraph of the statement, you say this: I have contacted security at Camelot, and there are no records of Mrs. Palmer contacting them and querying any error notices. Likewise, I have contacted both Chesterfield, who raised the error notices, and the Post Office National Business Service Centre, NBSC, and there are no records of any calls made relating to Camelot scratchcard or error notices relating to scratch cards.
Yes.
Did you read through the NBSC logs which were obtained for the purposes of the trial by Julie Edgley, who exhibited them?
Sorry, did I read through?
Did you read through the NBSC logs which were obtained for the trial and exhibited by Julie Edgley?
I would have thought so, yes.
Have you had a chance to read through the log of NBSC calls which has been disclosed since you made your statement as part of the more recent documentation?
I have.
You are specific here in saying there were no records of calls relating to scratch cards. There were calls made reporting issues with the Horizon system and with balancing, though, weren't there? And we'll have a look at those. So could we have on screen, please, document reference RMG 50223. There are 57 log entries relating to Mrs. Palmer's branch on this log by my count.
That's a lot of calls, isn't it? How does PM put through prize payment check? Well, that sounds possibly a bit scratch-cardy. Procedure, obtaining cards, wants to know how to rem a shortage. So shortage, her vouchers still in the just stock. So she's kind of having issues with balancing and with stock. PM wants to know procedure to deal with discrepancies after he's rolled over to clear his losses and gains. Again, start at zero. Right, so there are... I mean, and again, it doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't mentioned. It means it wasn't actually logged on the call log. But presumably she didn't mention specifically scratch cards. If scratch cards were causing a shortage and she was ringing up about shortages, then that is certainly something, of note. I mean, there's certainly something about scratch cards, because we can see in November 2004 there was an issue raised with scratch cards, although it doesn't appear to be related to Horizon. It does actually appear that there were some queries relating to Camelot activities, lottery prizes, Xmas scratch cards, etc., etc. But in the main, it looks a bit like the balancing issues were carrying on from these call logs.
Going, please, to the month of August 2005, the month that was raised in interview. The first entry is at line 29, 10th of August 2005. That's it, line 29. And so the detailed description column, which is column E, for the 10th of August, first entry there says, how do we redeem a REM shortage out of suspense? And then the entry below says this, incorrect stock discrep return form, office have REM'd out stock. And then in the resolution column, which is column G, advised office to check to see if she had a minus figure, advised to adjust the stock to correct amount, then go to trial balance. Are scratch cards counted as stock?
They are once they've been activated.
So although the very few words used by the maker of this log do not use the word scratch card, why do you assume that this call did not relate to scratch cards?
I don't know.
The 17 entries which follow are all dated August 2005. They set out the technical problems which Mrs. Palmer was encountering with the system, don't they? We don't need to go through them line by line, but if you just cast an eye down.
Yes.
And just scrolling down, please, if we can. We see a reference on the 18th of August there to the trouble with the printer that she was talking about.
Yes.
Then the 19th of August, Horizon system down, stopped collection, unable to rem out, too much cash now in the office. 19th, PM says she will hold the money in the office as no one has called back from service support. System failure is in cap. Printer problems. 23rd of August, PM reported fault on system. Engineer brought printer but not accessories. And going down again. Another issue with trying to have printer fixed. So those aren't they, the technical problems which Mrs. Palmer was describing in the interview. That log directly supports what she was saying about what she was reporting in August 2005.
Some of the issues on that log are related to Horizon, yes.
Had you requested the MBSC call logs when Mrs. Palmer first raised this issue in the interview, they would have corroborated the account she gave in interview, wouldn't they, of the problem she was experiencing and the attempts she made in August 2005 to resolve them?
There was an issue in 2005, which obviously you can see that she has tried to resolve, yes.
Do you think this might have put a different complexion on the case if the logs had been obtained and looked at alongside her account from the outset?
I mean, surely it certainly would have, because that whole period of August at the Aquarium where this scratch card issue happened, she was literally backing up with money and having to close and not being able to put things through on time. I'd be more surprised if a mistake wasn't made during that time, even putting aside Horizon issues, but the post office has to bear some responsibility for the lacklustre response to the issues being reported to them at that time.
I think the transaction corrections were in relation to transactions prior to August 2005, if I believe. They were something like end of April, maybe May time, so before the issue that she's reported in August.
In circumstances where Mrs. Palmer was giving you an account of having difficulties and saying there were technical problems and she was experiencing balancing issues, there was an entry about stock and a discrepancy in stock. The fact that there was a log supporting what she was saying to you, would that have made any difference to your assessment of the case?
Given the time, I wouldn't be able to answer that now.